God is within us. The source of all light and life and love, the creator of the universe, the one word, the one child, the one verse, the birth, heaven and earth, before and after, the first breath, the cross, a bridge from a dark abyss, to spark a kiss pressed against the empty lips of existence. God is within us. Beyond the lips, beyond the script, beyond description of words or worlds, and awestruck wonder, under every movement of heart or breath or lungs, or every secret change whispered down the infinite ear of mystery. God is within us. Thank you.
God is within Joe.
We got one more Venus poem at the end here. But before that, Kage Gampo, I know you're in the room. You're up, brother.
Aho, ugo de ng magno. Ani. Kage Gampo is the tani. Economic and udem. Economic swaggling and drum. Ratio kakaba kanu and dagon bones. Engaging in glitch random jerry, Yavian Obama, in glitch bit and shine, in glitch bit and dally. Again, that was a traditional greeting. Hello, all of my relatives. My name is Kage Gampo. I'm Turtle Clan, a descendant of Turtle Mountain. I live close to Minneapolis, Chicago, the place of the falls. I'm delighted. I'm so grateful to be here with you all this morning. And I wanted to thank you all for coming. I wanted to thank you for listening. I wanted to emphatically say, it is a good day. In the Ojibwe language, this was one of my first teachings I had heard was, you learn how to talk about weather. And one of my teachers pointed out, and then I would hear from elder after elder that no matter what the weather is like, you can always say, it is a good day. It is inherently good. For me, it reminds me of the Buddhist teaching that it's already nirvana. It was my perspective that was getting in the way. And to be here with all of you it is indeed such a good day. Now, yesterday when we left off, we spoke of the 7 generations. Teaching that shows up internationally in indigenous country. We learned that our word for great-grandparent, or ancestor, and my great-grandchild is Anakopichiga. I say mine, it's in Anakopichiga. And that a word just doesn't mean that. If we look at the parts of the word, it has an anako, which is to be interlinked, to be interconnected. So really what that word means is that being I'm inextricably interconnected to. That being I'm inextricably connected. And when we look at that word, logically, it implies the moment you say it, 7 generations. 7 generations, past, present, and future, that are punctuated intergenerationally by this concept of I'm inextricably linked to you, I'm inextricably interconnected to you. And because of that, my actions will affect you, and your actions will affect me. We see how that shows up both spiritually, the laws of karma, as well as biologically and spiritually, or biologically and scientifically with our DNA. Your laws of physics. We learned that we are indeed, from an indigenous perspective, that idea of me, and that I, me, myself, it may be illusory. It may be just a perspective we have from our ancestors' perspective, only the spirit, only the benevolent mystery. The Creator God says, I, excluding you. From our perspective, we are all of our relatives. All of our relatives are us. And we use that term, we say, I'm addressing all of you. And because of that, for me, it was scientific and spiritual proof that every single action, choice, and decision that we make has the potential to affect someone. We'll never see, speak to, listen to, or hold. Because even if we look at our great-grandchildren, their great-grandchildren are also called them down and holding through them. And when we look for a way to act with peace and balance with our environment, with our ecosystem, with our relatives, a life without contradiction, where I'm saying one thing and then doing another, a life without conflict, a life of peace and balance, Minobu Matsuin. Our ancestors left us a way to do that. They called it the Gichi Deba Konage Wonan. And when we looked at that word, it has in it dib, to measure, to speak about, and akon is with the wood-like article in the hand. So it's a reference to the sacred pipe. So what we're about to discuss this morning is something that has been meditated upon and mediated with our most sacred items, our most sacred medicines, the tobacco, the sweetgrass, the sage, and the cedar. And we also call these great laws the seven grandfather teachings. So when I really wanted to know what these teachings meant, I knew I couldn't just look at a translation of the word. What I began examining was the spirituality in the ceremony of our ancestors. And one of the most ancient ceremonies I found, it's called the Gi'igoshimuin. And as far as rites of passage are concerned, this is the unique opportunity in my life where I am surrounded by men who actually understand what a rite of passage is, what a ceremony is like this. This is the audience to be at. Now I'm finally hanging out with the cool kids. You guys get it. One of our most ancient ceremonies is called Gi'igoshimuin, the Vision Quest. You guys have all heard of a Vision Quest. And I found this account. It was written in 1904. It was written by the late Chief John Benassi. His name was Gagige Benasiban, Eternal Thunderbird. He was the chief at Thunder Bay in northern Ontario. And he told this account completely in Ojibwe in 1904. The fellow who recorded it for him wrote it down in Ojibwe, and he was an old man at this time. So this must have taken place in the 1830s or 1840s. He lived in a lodge, and he was woken up one morning by his father. And as the boy looked at his dad, he saw his dad had two things in his hand. In one hand, he had mijim, food, wias, venison, manoman, wild rice, minan berries, and in the other hand, he had a charred piece of wood, a kakanje, charcoal. Now this boy knows he's being presented a choice. There's an incredibly important spiritual teaching here. And it's one you all know. No one can make you do a ceremony, and no one can do a ceremony for you. This has to be your choice. And grandma and grandpa can't do this for you. Your aunts or uncles, your brothers or sisters, your cousins, it has to be you. So if the boy chooses breakfast, he's not reprimanded, he's not chewed out or grounded, he's fed. It might not be his time. But the boy knew what was at stake. He selected the kakanje, the charcoal, and the old man marked his face with it several times, makadeke, to blacken the face. And for the next 4 days and 3 nights, this boy went without food, he went without water, he was in isolation on Unamikiwachuing on Thunderbird Mountain. For me, this is always Morpheus and Neo in the Matrix, where he has to pick the red pill or the blue pill, and he's like, I'm only offering you the truth. That's what this boy's going to seek out. He's going to seek out a vision. So if anyone sees him with the charcoal, the ash on his face, they leave him alone. They don't offer him traditional hospitality, visiting, food, tea. They know he's on a quest. He's seeking out a dream. He's seeking out a vision. And I don't know if any of you have ever had to fast for either medical or spiritual reasons. Can you imagine this boy at the end of day 1, as the sun's going down, he's looking at Lake Superior, he's on a mountain, he's by himself. I wonder what he's thinking. Probably if he's acting like us, I think everything past day 1 without water gets uncomfortable. In fact, I promised myself, if I could drink, and there was something to drink in front of me, I would do it. When you go without, every drop becomes precious. And although this is makare mashkiki wabu, this is black medicine liquid, this is coffee, it's our word in Ojibwe for coffee. It's not the sacred nibby, not the sacred water. It will do for right now. This boy is asking, how am I going to get some of that water? How would I get some food? How would I get clothing or shelter? And he's learning something very important. What happens to a human being without food, water, clothing, or shelter? You will die. You cannot survive without those basic core human needs being met. From this point on, if he ever meets someone without those basic human needs being met, he will feel a genuine empathy. It will be authentic. It will be real. I too have felt cold, hunger, thirst, and loneliness. And if I can help you, I will. Can we play the first slides? It's November. It's going to be American Indian Month. We'll celebrate Thanksgiving with one another. And so often as an Indigenous scholar, as someone who is online, I'll be asked, well, why did our ancestors help those people who would ultimately end up settling and colonizing Mikinako-Minnesing? That's our Ojibwe name for Turtle Island. And for them, here's the thing, it wasn't even a choice. It wasn't even a decision. This is how you treat your fellow human being when you are in need, especially when you too have felt cold, thirst, and hunger. When they saw them, they helped them. And now this boy, realizing that he will perish without these basic core human needs, can we play the next slide after this? Is learning our first grandfather teaching that we'll speak about this morning. Dabasain Dizoin. Humility. Now when we look at what this word means, can we do the next slide, please? It has in it dabas, low. Ain is to think, and dizo is of myself. I think lowly of myself. Because he realizes, who is feeding me? Who is giving me my clothing? Who is giving me my shelter? Who is nourishing me when I am ill? It's the land. It's the Aki. It's Gokomisanan, our grandmother. The animals, they're feeding us, they're clothing us, they're giving us a shelter. The plants that are growing, we call them mushkiki, medicine. But really that word in Ojibwe has in it mushk, strength. Aki is the earth. It's the strength of the earth. We seek out the strength of the earth when we need to be healed and nourished. The trees, they're giving us fire. They're giving us a shelter. They're giving us the very oxygen we need to breathe, and the water is giving life to all of it. And what he's saying there, when I am not, I think lowly of myself, what he's actually doing is putting the human being, Anishinaabe, where he belongs. I am not more important than all of my relatives. In fact, I cannot live without them. You're asking, I just use that term relative. He realizes I have a relationship with each one of the animals, with each one of the birds, with the plants, with the trees, with the water. It's the relationship that makes them relatives. So when you use that term that we opened up with this morning in Dinoy Makanadok, you're addressing all of them. You're not just speaking to someone you have a DNA connection to, a marriage connection to. You're addressing the entire universe in all directions. In Dinoy Makanadok, I'm related to all of you. And I am not more important than you. In fact, I can't live without you. You may do just fine without me. I cannot survive without you. You know, in the Nigagoon-Sminneconing Reserve in northwestern Ontario, for them, that word for human being has in it Anisha, which is for nothing, and Abe, the being. The one who is nothing without his or her relatives. The one who is nothing without the spirit. In the Lake of the Woods area, it's the one who is humble before the Creator. I am not more important than all of my relatives. I am all of them. And that kind of humility brings with it respect. It's our next grandfather teaching. That's the next slide. Manaji itiwen. When you look it up in the dictionary, you'll see it means to respect someone. It also means to go easy on someone. Yesterday I told you all that my family were from Turtle Mountain. They were a buffalo people. Mashkare Bijiki, the buffalo, fed us, they clothed us, they sheltered us, they gave us a myriad of tools with their bodies. And this boy must ask himself at one time, would it be a good idea then to go out and kill all of the buffalo, or would that be catastrophically stupid? I would destroy myself. They went easy on them. They took only what they needed. And you'll see that with traditional harvesting practices as well. I take only what I need and I leave the rest behind. Before I harvest, I pray. I make an acknowledgement with my asema, with my tobacco. I give thanks. I address the plants, I address the animals. And I go easy on them. And from an Anishinaabe perspective, the animals, the plants, the trees are going easy on us. They are looking at us as human beings, and that's a hard concept to get across to some audiences, that a plant would look at a human being and say, you're not going to make it unless if I heal you with the medicine I have in me. An animal looking at us saying, you will freeze to death if you do not have makazanan, if you don't have shoes, if you don't have a wayan, if you don't have a robe. You will perish. I am going easy on you. For me, this is acknowledging the sanctity, the sacredness of our relatives' lives. It's the foundation of respect from an Anishinaabe point of view. I acknowledge that my relatives' lives are sacred. And not just human, all of my relatives. And that kind of respect for one's lives, that kind of humility, this boy asking himself, as he's cold, he's hungry, he's thirsty, he's going through that first night alone by himself. And I wonder if he's asking himself, well, who else in my life would give me clothing right now? Would give me some broth to drink? Would tend to the fire? It'd be my family. It'd be my relatives. Why do they do that? Because they love me. That's our next slide. Saki Itduan is our grandfather teaching of love. And that word has in it, can we do the next slide, please? Zagi. It means to emerge. Now, I don't think that this is a definition of love. I think it's a description. And we can see it in the next slide. This is a friend of mine's Indian name, Sagachoy. Sagachoy. He or she comes from behind the mountain. Now, that could be in one way. You see a mountain and you see someone climbing to the summit of it, and as they climb up, they come into view, right? But what this name really means is, if we can play the next slide, it's a video. We will see exactly what this boy would see at the end of his first night of fasting. Can you play that video, sir? Thank you. Do you guys recognize him? It's the sleeping giant, Winabosho. And in a moment we'll see Sagachoy, who is coming up from behind the mountain. It's Gimishomasanan. It's our grandfather. It's the sun. Now, when the sun rises in the morning, who is the sun shining on? Everyone and everything. We are seeing a perspective, an Anishinaabe perspective of what does unconditional love look like. And it's got to be something like that. What does the Creator's unconditional love for us look like? It's got to be something for everyone and everything. And if you can put yourself in that boy's moccasins for a moment, you're cold, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're lonely, you're hearing all of the animals. It's dark. And all of a sudden it gets very dark. Bidaban. The dawn is approaching. And all of a sudden the atmosphere changes. Hints of light begin to appear. You can hear the birds. If you're chronic insomniac like myself, when you hear the birds, you're like, oh man, I did it again. I stayed up all night. And then all of a sudden, Sagachoy, Gimishomasanan, our grandfather comes out. And you feel warmth. And you see the sun shining on everyone and everything. This Zagi, it's to emerge. It's to come out. And we also don't have just one word. Well, I want to share this one with you too. Our month of May. May in Minnesota is beautiful. It is very cold. It is very cold where we're at. We will have some winters where it is, negative 40. And as spring comes along, and as the days become longer, Gianamikika, the thunderbirds fly overhead. All of a sudden, the mandamin seeds you planted, the corn seeds, deep in the earth, will emerge. And we call it the Zagi Pagagis. It's the budding moon. And when those leaves come out of the corn seed, that's Zagibaga. It's emerging. That Zog, it's emerging out of this dry kernel. Now, when this corn comes to fruition, as we just saw last month, the corn will feed a thief or a teacher, a saint or a sinner. We are seeing by example how the medicines can show us unconditional love. We call that moon the Zagibaga-Jesus. It's the budding moon. And that can emerge out of us. For me, I cannot recall a single poem, a song, a novel, a painting, a sculpture that has ever captured the love I feel for my wife, for my son, for my parents or grandparents, for my nieces or nephews. Because it's not coming from here. It's not coming from our words, which are the sounds of our thoughts. It is coming from a much deeper place. A place that is beyond sight, it is beyond vision. Just like the sun rising, you can't see it in the distance, and when it comes out, it illuminates everyone. It's for the benefit of all of our relatives. That's Zaki it doing. So if there's someone you love and you want to say I love you, you can always say Gisaki in. And there's a point here that I want to make with this word. Zaki it dizo. Zaki it dizo is to love oneself. That it dizo means me. Now, it's not an egocentric or self-centered love. What we are saying in that word is that if I am all of my relatives and all of my relatives are me, do I deserve the same love that I give to all of my relatives? How often do we forget that? How often are we overly critical? We are condemning of ourselves. I say things personally to myself that I would never repeat to people I detest. Yet I have no problem lobbing those at myself and thinking those thoughts. And that reminder that Sakit Dizo, you have a duty to love yourself just as much as you love your relatives. And I think particularly for an Iniwak, for men, that can be really easy to forget. That we too are deserving of that compassion, that care, that affection. And we don't just have one word for love in Ojibwe. We also have Shawenam. Shawenam can mean 3 different things in English. It means one in Ojibwe. Shawenam can mean to have compassion for. It can mean to bless, and it can mean to love unconditionally. I think maybe the best way to define this word would be with a story. It's a description. And it's the Name Benikizis. It is a story I love. It is one of the first stories I heard when I began learning about the names of the moons, the months in Ojibwe. We already learned about Sagibagagizis, the budding moon. Name Benikizis is the suckerfish moon. This is February. And I already mentioned that it gets very cold in Minnesota in February. And I know we have Minnesotans here, and they will say, yes, that's exactly what he's talking about. And this had been a really cold one. Began with a polar vortex. 40 below, maybe 50, 60 below with wind chill. Blizzard, more blizzards. By February, there had been yet another polar vortex. And this was just, we've gone through them in Minnesota, really cold, hard winters. And starvation haunted Ojibwe winters. And so no matter how much you prepare, how much corn you set aside, how much monomen, wild rice you have processed, you harvested, when it gets that cold for that long, the animals will sit still. They'll sit still for a month and a half. They will burrow in, they will get through the cold weather, and then they will start ruminating, they'll start looking for food. But if you are hunting and gathering people, that can make life very, very difficult. And starvation was setting in. People were becoming bakadewak, literally lean from hunger. They're becoming skinny from hunger. And they did what they were instructed to do. They asked for help. They used the pipes, they used their tobacco, they asked for help. And it said a man has a dream, he has a vision. Kibuachige, that word can mean vision, it can also mean dream in the language. And in his dream, he's approached by the suckerfish, Namaven. And the suckerfish in his dream tells him that if you were to set your nets underneath the ice, we'll swim into them. We'll save you. This man wakes up. He relates his vision to his relatives, and they begin at once. They make a network of holes underneath the ice that they're able to get the nets under, And when it gets that cold, many of you in here probably know that most of the fish will go towards the bottom of lakes and rivers. The bottom dwellers, though, will go towards the ice. And it was Namaben. And when you never see mounted, you never see someone taking a picture with this fish that looked at human beings and said, I have compassion. I have pity for you. You are going to die if we do not help you. I have compassion for you. You are starving to death. I'm going to show you unconditional love with our bodies, and we will bless you with life. And from that moment on, they call February in Minnesota the Namebenigizis. This is the suckerfish moon. We should never forget this. We should never forget the moment a bottom dweller showed us compassion so that we could survive as human beings. This will happen during the Iskigamisigegizis as well, the maple sap boiling moon. You know, it was a cold winter, and then they had sent out hunters. The hunters found nothing. There was one who remained behind. He wasn't going to quit, and while he is in the woods by himself, he hears a disembodied voice from somewhere. He knows, as a human being, he's alone. He's really looking for someone, a Wawash Keishi, a deer, a dick caribou, a mushkoos, an elk, moose. But he looks around and sees no one but an Inatic, the man tree, the maple, the sugar maple. And when they call a man tree, if you look at their leaves, they have 5 fingers on them. And it's the tree who is speaking to him. And the tree tells him, I know you are hungry. If you were to make an incision in my bark, the pure syrup, and at this time it's pure syrup. Later the trickster will turn it into sap when he sees human beings becoming too lazy and just drinking pure maple syrup all the time. He says it's pure maple syrup. If you drink this, it will give you the necessary calories, it will give you the minerals, and it will give you the vitamins that science has already proven are in pure maple syrup, and you will survive. You will be able to make it to your spring hunting camp. And that's what he does. And from that month on, from that time on, they called that the maple sap moiling. And it was an Inatic. It was a tree looking at human beings, looking at men, knowing, I know you are hungry. I know you are tired, and I know you need help. And we're going to help you. And that's why you'll hear at the end of ceremonies, Shawena Mishanam, Shawena Mishanam, Shawena Mishanam, Shawena Mishanam. And that word is a traditional perspective of indigenous spirituality. That means please bless, please love, please have compassion and pity for all of us. For all of us. Because if I am all of my relatives and all of my relatives are me, if I truly believe in something, if I truly want something, I'm going to ask for you the same thing I would ask for myself. And what I would love for all of us is for all of us to be blessed, for all of us to feel compassion, for all of us to be loved unconditionally. And that's Shawenam. And that means everyone. The people we love, as well as the people who are acting in a way that doesn't bring peace and balance. And acknowledging that they too will need help, that they too will need that compassion, that they too will need that love, and they will need a blessing. And I can't make them change, but I can ask for that blessing for them. And if you ever want to say, I love you to someone, you can always say, Geshawenaman. And I don't know if you would you guys like to know how to say that word? If it is something that you can bring with you, I'll tell you 2 ways. One, I love you, and then the other one is, please bless all of us. Are you guys ready? Shawenam, Ishanam. Shawenam, Ishanam. We'll do it all together. Shawenam, Ishanam. Shawenam, Ishanam. Take that prayer with you. That is as traditional of an Ojibwe prayer as I have heard. Shawenam, Ishanam. And if you have someone that you love, you can always say, Gye, Jawain, Nimin. Gye Jawain Nimin. We don't have a word for goodbye in Ojibwe. So I always say to my son, Gigawabaman, I'll see you later. Gye Jawain Nimin, I love you. And we exchange that all the time because, yesterday we were talking about Pamatsuan, the eternal moving through the impermanent. So in Ojibwe, we don't have a goodbye. It's I'll see you later. I'll see you in this life or after. Is whatever you are is eternal, and our paths will cross again if they've crossed now. I love you. I'll see you later. And he says it to me, but now I have to say it before he opens up the door to go to class, to go to the school, because Dad, people are going to hear you. And I'm like, no. Nijo Vanessa, my son. And that kind of love will change the very way you lead your life. Great. Indeed it will. Our next grandfather teaching that I want to speak about, it's Zungide Ewan. It's strength of heart. It's courage. May I see the next slide? Can we do the next one after this, please? One more. Two more. This word, Zungide, it means courage. It means bravery. Can we do the next one? This is the word Shawena Mishanam. Shawena Mishanam. Shawena Mishanam. Shawena Mishanam. And then we'll do another after this. This is Gizaki in to Shawena Min. Then after this should be Zungide Ewan. Oh, Zaki, so don't forget to love yourselves. Let's do the next one. Zungide Ewan. Now I love the translation of courage for this slide. It has in it core, which is the Latin term for heart. It's to lead a life with heart. In Ojibwe, if we say you are leading a life with a strong heart, I'm saying you are brave. You're courageous. You have a strong heart. And there's a story that radically changed the way I look at this word. And it's the coming of the Bwanji Dewegun, the big drum, to the Ojibwe in Minnesota. And to hear the drums this morning, I'm like, this is the story I've got to tell. This is, and you guys will get it. You guys will totally understand what's happening here. Now, there had been, the story is, beginning is dark. There is a Dakota village. It is the early 1860s. This is a part of history that's rarely discussed in Minnesota. And in the Dakotas, there is no North and South Dakota yet. It was just the Dakota Territory. And the Chimoko monarch, the long knives, the soldiers, it's the long knife, it's a reference to the bayonets at the end of their rifles, are sent to that village to annihilate it, to destroy it. They aren't there to take prisoners, they're there to annihilate the village. And it said a woman, Wiaka Shintengwin, tail-feather woman, hides for her life in a nearby cedar swamp. She finds a pond that she remains completely submerged in. She's using a hollow reed to breathe through because if she is discovered, she will be killed. She'll be killed on sight. Everyone they're engaging with is being killed. This is a battle that goes on for 3 to 4 days. For 3 to 4 days, she remains hidden under constant duress and fear of being discovered and losing her life. And it said, while she is hiding, she has a vision. Wakan Tonka. The great mystery, the great spirit, tells her the spirit is very disappointed in how human beings are living. And when you look at that period in our history, the civil wars raging, how much blood was shed during there, the wars for the Great Plains are raging. And the Dakota, they aren't just in a war with the Americans. They're fighting the Ojibwe as well. And this is a war that has been going on for 100 winters, maybe even 200 winters. There had not been peace between both of these nations. And she is told that if the Dakota were to present a drum to the Ojibwe, it would bring peace to both of their nations. And the drum she is shown in her vision is the next slide. You'll see what a Bwanji Dewegan looks like. You guys, next slide, please. The video. These are Bwanji Dewegan. These are Dakota drums. Can you play the video? You'll see a vision of it. See what she saw in her vision. These are very distinctive. They're very unique. That's all good. We can go to And when she sees these drums, she's able to escape. And it said mystically, the soldiers can't see her. She gets up, she walks, and she goes to the nearest Dakota village. And she tells the holy men there, this is what we need to do. And they begin creating these drums at once. And it said when they bring these drums, the Dewa Igan, to the Ojibwe, and they say this is at Mississauga, maybe the original Mystic Lake, the big lake, and the Ojibways accept them. If we can play the next slide, we'll get an idea of what that word really means in Ojibwe, the Dewa Igan. They're sitting together in a circle, and when they strike the drum, it represents both of their hearts beating as one. Can we play the next slide with the meaning of Dewa Igan on it? And when they are doing this, they're playing the instrument that makes the sound of the heart. The De is the heart. The Way, it's the sound, it's the voice. The Igan, it's the tool, it's the instrument. You guys must understand that when you're playing your drums. This is the instrument that makes the sound of the heart. And these people who had brought the very worst that war has to offer, generation after generation, poverty, terror, rage, hatred, bereavement. They had done the worst thing you could do. They had killed each other's relatives. Generation after generation, they were avenging that. They were seeking revenge. And at that moment, when they were sounding that drum, when it represented both of their hearts, when they were singing, they were speaking with one voice, the smoke that was coming up from the sage, from the sweetgrass, from the chanupa, from the opwagan, from the pipe, those were their prayers going to the heavens. And at that moment, they said, no matter what happens, I shall never raise my hand to you again. I will never fight you again. At this moment, Zungade'ewen became something completely different. Strength of heart for me was no longer, I am unafraid to go out and fight Dakotas. It meant, I am totally unafraid to treat Dakotas as relatives. And when I saw parallels in that, in Christianity, in Buddhism, of what that really meant to love one's enemy, to say, I'm not passing warfare down to my children the way I received it from my parents, the way they received it from their grandparents, from my great-grandparents, for great-grandparents after that. It's done here. And these drums, Inini Badok, men, warriors, they are still played today. They are being played this weekend. They are played every fall and every spring in acknowledgement of that treaty. And I have worked side by side with Dakotas in advocating for language, our culture, our history, our spirituality in the community, in the classroom, in our homes. For me, I needed this teaching because this showed me that reconciliation, it's possible. It's possible when we do it right. It's possible when we have ceremony. It's possible when it's done with the heart. And I find it just moving when I think when we needed that desperate healing, who did the Spirit send but a woman with a drum? And so the Ogichida, the warriors, and in a room like this rare occasion that I have to speak to men, when we look at that word Ogichida, for some people, it means O, Gichi, great, and De. The warrior is the one who has a great heart, is one description of it. Now these warriors who had fought one another, the roles began to shift. They began to evolve. The warrior now was no longer, I am going out to fight people. They're still on the front line of defense, but they began to take a ceremonial position at the drums. So when you see Ojibwe drum ceremonies and they address the people who are sounding the drum, who are looking after the drum, who are setting up the drum, they called them Ogichida. They called them the warriors. When they began those drum societies, they sought out the greatest warriors they could find. Because now their jobs had shifted. They were no longer fighting each other. They were advocating for their community's healing. And you need a really strong heart to do that. To heal those people who are not dealing with warfare, very well, for those people who did not deal with colonization very well, for those who did self-destructive behaviors, and those self-destructive behaviors harmed the community. Those were the warriors who had a strong enough heart to say, I'm not just praying for all of my family, for my children, for my grandchildren. I'm praying for all of you. Can we see the next slide that has the text on it? And you need a strong heart, because what they're going to do is acknowledge all of their relatives in the east, in the south, in the west, and in the north. And they would ask for them the same thing that they would ask for themselves. I pray that you all have peace that comes from well-being, and well-being that comes from peace. I pray that you all have good health in your bodies, that your bodies are working well. I pray that your thoughts and your emotions are in balance so that you may know true joy. I pray that you walk along the path of life in a good way, in a way that brings balance to all of your relatives. You are all blessed. You are all loved unconditionally. You are all shown compassion. This is a cool verb you can't really translate it into English. That egu, it's someone unspecified is speaking. I have no right to speak on behalf of the Creator, but I can use the language to say, you are beloved by the Spirit, by the mystery. And so when they're setting down their tobacco, they're praying for everyone in their community. And that's the warrior's job. That's the warrior's role, to have a strong heart. And all of a sudden, for them, the war became with depression, became with sadness, became with loneliness, became with bereavement, became a loss. How can I, as a man, address those needs in my community? And I have to do it for all of them. Not just those ones I have a preference for. Not just those ones I have a special relationship with. So as they're walking along that special road of life, for all of their relatives, we can see that word in our sacred law of truth, Awaken. Now, that word in it has this was one of the first etymologies, the first stories of a word that I heard from an elder. It came from the late Marlene Stately from Gazagasquat, Jamaica, the place of many leeches, Leech Lake, Minnesota. And if you go swimming in Leech Lake, you'll find out. And for her, Awaken had in it day, the heart, and way to speak like day, way again, the instrument that makes the sound of the heart. Awaken, I am speaking to you from my heart. I am speaking to you from the very center and core of my being. And you'll see this in petroglyphs. You'll see a figure that is drawn that has a line coming through the center of their being. They're relating truth. They're relating from my very core. Now this is different than our word for honesty. In Anishinaabe, to be... Now, do you guys mind if I ask you one quick question? If you hear truth and honesty in like the same list of teachings, does that sound weird in English? It sounded weird to me in English. It's like, well, if you're honest, you tell the truth. If you tell the truth, you're honest. They're kind of synonymous in North American English. In Anishinaabe, they're quite different. Can we show the slide for honesty, please? Awaken is to speak the truth. Each one of these are verbs. These are things that we do. These are ways that we act, Awaken. In our next slide, we'll see our grandfather teaching for honesty, for virtue, for righteousness. Perfect. That word means guayak, straight, right, proper, correct, in order, in alignment. Otsi is to live. So if you're honest in the Ojibwe language, it comes out in how I live. And every man in this room has had this experience where there is someone in your life who has told you should act a certain way, dress a certain way, speak a certain way, do a particular ceremony, and then you've seen them do something completely different on Friday or Saturday night out on the town. That is contradiction. It's literally to go against what you say. It is hypocrisy. In the Ojibwe language, are my actions in alignment with my words and my thoughts? Are these working holistically? Are these working with each other? not going against what I say, am I leading a holistic life, a holy life? Am I being authentic? And if you want to be honest in Ojibwe, it is literally, don't just listen to my words, observe the way I live my life. The truth will invariably come out. It always does. The sun, the moon, and the truth are never hidden for long. This will emerge, and you'll see it. So as we're seeking out a good life, it is, am I being authentic? Am I being true to my word? Am I walking the walk or just talking the talk? And we know that if I lead a life with humility, with respect, with love, with strength of heart, with truth, with honesty and virtue and righteousness, then every single one of my choices, and not just me, every single decision we make will be right. It will be correct. It will be wise. It will be enlightened. That is our final grandfather teaching that we'll speak about today, Nabwakawan. Nabwakawan. There's this Wa word part in there. And it shows up in a couple of very important words. There's Wawate, those are the northern lights. There's Waban, the dawn. Wabanong is where the dawn comes from. It's the east. It's the first direction we acknowledge with the tobacco. There's Wasagan, lightning. Wasese. Wasese, it's that moment when you're out at night, and I bet everyone here has had this experience, and there is a flash of lightning, and at one moment, for that split second, everything is brighter, maybe even brighter than midday, and you can see everything exactly as it is. There's Wabam, to have vision, to be able to see. The reason Ojibwe has a Guinness Book of World Record for maybe one of the most complex morphological words, it's there. You can conjugate that verb over 6,000 different ways. One linguist suggested that might be a conservative number. It could be around 7,000. We haven't counted all of them. It's a very sophisticated and elegant language with laser-like precision. But to be able to see, and you need light to be able to see. And I want to ask you all, can you see without using your eyes? And this is why this boy went on a vision quest. He sought out a dream. He sought out a vision. Bawachige, he or she has a dream. He or she has a vision. All of those wa show up in each one of those words. When we talk about Nabwakawan, we can see the world exactly as it is. We can act intelligently. We can literally act enlightened. Each one of those wa word parts shows up with light. I will be able to see without my prejudices, without my concerns, without all of the baggage I'm carrying along with it. I will be able to see in a way that I know I will never meet someone 7 generations from now. But I know whatever I do right now will be positively beneficial for them. I'm enlightened that way. So, what I am so delighted that I've had a chance to do with you all over this very special weekend is I've had a chance to share with you what I think is an ingenious 13,000-year investment in us. You know, Anishinaabe aren't the only people who sought out to pass knowledge down to the generations. You know, if you look at Egyptian hieroglyphs, you'll see that people, thousands of years ago, literally carved their words into stone. I had this moment, I was just looking at this picture yesterday. I was at the Vatican. I was with my wife. She had won a trip and brought me over there with her company. And we were in the courtyard, and there was probably looted Egyptian materials there. And there was this lion, and underneath there were hieroglyphs. And I was in the corridor. I wasn't in the museum itself. And I couldn't help it. And I just was like, and I touched it. And I had a moment when I touched it. And I was like, oh my gosh, there was someone 2,000 years ago who with a hammer and a chisel carved that out so that I would see it right now. I was in the very same place he was. And it struck me that, yes, he had put such great effort into passing down those teachings that they had learned. He had literally carved them into stone so that I would be able to see them. And something happens along the way. People forget how to read and write hieroglyphs. They'll even forget what language they're in. It takes until the 1860s to realize, oh wait, they're not just drawing pictures, they're literally writing. But all of that had been lost. The Mayans will do it as well. When you look at their hieroglyphs, they had such detailed knowledge of astronomy and of the heavens that they could literally predict where planets and stars would be, and then they could build pyramids exactly underneath them. And then they wrote it down in stone and told you where Venus will be at this time of year. It's extraordinary. And yet, so much of that language had been, in one of the most brutal legacies of colonization, lost. And they're started beginning to be able to break the Mayan code now because it's incredibly sophisticated, it's incredibly detailed. But some of that had been lost. And when I asked myself, what would my ancestors want to pass down to me? They knew anything they built would one day turn to dust. That's the nature of life here on earth. What would they want to show me? And I think they wanted to tell me how I could lead a good life. How to lead a life of peace and balance. How would they pass these teachings down? They would put them in the most obvious place possible. They'd put them in the language. When I first started learning the language, they told me if you really want to know the culture, history, philosophy, and spirituality, it's all in the language. And it literally takes me a year to literally look in the language because as human beings, we're hardwired to speak. We speak for the same reason we can touch, taste, hear, taste, or smell. We're hardwired to do it. What I don't think they could have predicted was the time when we didn't use the language. So when I look at some of these words, I can literally hear the voices of ancestors whispering to me, this is how we did it. We too asked ourselves, what does it mean to love? How do I have a strong heart? How do I respect and acknowledge the sanctity, sacredness of my relatives' lives? How do I really have compassion? And then they embedded that in the language. So we find ourselves as Ojibwe people at a crossroads. Do we invest in the language to hopefully pass that down to someone we'll never see? Or do we continue to progress as we have? And, on that trip, I did something pretty remarkable for myself. I had been an inveterate and degenerate cigarette smoker for over 2 decades at that time. I had tried to quit repeatedly. It was the only thing, anything else I could take it or leave it, but cigarettes, I was terribly addicted. I was addicted the same way someone who hits a meth pipe or injects heroin was. I failed so miserably so many times, and my brother is an MD. He was desperately trying to get me to quit smoking cigarettes. My wife is one of those who can have 1 or 2 and then not have them, and I'm like, I don't need your advice. I got a problem. My parents who love me are like, you really should stop. And I had wanted to, and I finally became exhausted, literally exhausted. I just was staving off withdrawals. And I wanted to be a non-smoker, but I didn't want to quit smoking. And finally, as I began learning these teachings, I had reached a point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to quit. I was watching myself. I had become self-aware. I was meditating. I was embracing the ways of Minopumatsu, of leading the good life. And on that trip, that very trip to Rome, I thought this will be the perfect time. I'll be in the airplane for how many hours? I'll be in another country. And I remember that first day in Rome, I had walked to the statue of Marcus Aurelius, that Michelangelo had put up. And as I was walking back, I had run into someone who was on the vacation with us, and she was seated at a sidewalk cafe in Rome drinking espresso, smoking a cigarette, and I failed. I'm like, when am I going to be here doing this? I felt like Marcello. I had a suit on, and there I was smoking cigarette, shades on, drinking espresso, and just delighted, but I had failed. And I was like, okay, this isn't the first time it'll happen. Later on that trip, I will be on a cruise where I get food poisoning. And I will be quarantined. Now, I had been watching myself for months before this, like watching myself every cigarette I took, the fear I had of withdrawal, like the fear of who am I even after 25 years of smoking without cigarettes? What am I going to do? All of these things. And while I was quarantined in that room for 4 days, everything I had thought of, every time I thought of cigarettes, it made me physically ill. The illness after food poisoning and quarantine was nothing. I mean, the cigarette withdrawal was nothing compared to that. So I walked away, and I walked away healed. I felt as almost as if Grandmother Ocean had like pulled it out of me, like the purge. Finally I was free. And I had resolved at that moment, though, I had learned something incredibly important. No one could have made me stop smoking cigarettes, and I know there are people way more stubborn than I was. And at that point, I resolved that I would never try to make someone change. It's a futile effort. It's a fool's errand. It didn't work on me. Why should I expect it to work on anyone else? And I realized I will never try to make someone change. But as I was looking at these teachings, I realized something important, that if I am all of my relatives, and all of my relatives are me, if I make that choice, if I make that decision to change the one person I know I can, myself, have I in fact changed all of my relatives? Have I changed? I don't know if we can play the next couple of slides. It'll be an image with a medicine wheel. If I change myself, does that change how I relate to my family, to my clan, my dudam? Does that change how my clan relates to my community? And does that change how my community relates to the world? And then I realized that, that's it. Only I can make that choice. Only I can make that decision. There we go, perfect. But it has to be me. No one can make this decision for me the same way no one can do this ceremony for this boy. No one can make me do it. No one can do it for me. But if I do make that choice to radically change myself, to heal myself, I'm not just changing the world now, but I'm changing the world for someone who's coming 7 generations from now. And if we can show the next one, and this may be this image. This is my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, myself, my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. 7 generations. Now I understand that I've been talking in a linear fashion, and that's how I was instructed. That's how we're taught in Western. It is now, and then we look into the future. However, I want to make this proposition to you all, as Okechida, as warriors, as men, as fathers, as brothers, as grandfathers, as uncles, as nephews and grandchildren. Are you still inextricably interconnected to those people who are no longer here? My great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents. I learned that I may have the opportunity, because I am still inextricably interconnected, to heal those people who are no longer here with us now. We are still living their story. We are still interconnected with them. We're still telling their story. And sometimes we think that it just has to go through that same flow line, that, they acted this way, therefore I will act this way. But if we make that decision ourselves to heal ourselves, to transform ourselves, we have the opportunity to heal those people who may have dealt with trauma in a way that wasn't healthy, who may have dealt with it with cigarettes, alcohol, unsafe sexual practices, gambling, those people who came before us who dealt with it in a not very healthy way, those people whose legacy we are dealing with on a daily basis. And if we transform that, I believe we are healing them as well. Even though they not be here to see it, they will be here in spirit with us to feel it. They too will be transformed. So it's not just going forward, it is holistic. It is past, present, and future. Great. And if you're asking yourself, well, how do I do that, Kage Gobble? How do I do that, James? Can we show the 7 grandfathers slide, please? And this is one I want to share with all of you. If you go to my website, you can download this. You can print it. You can share it any which way you like. Seek out a life with Devoilan, with truth, where you are speaking from the heart. Seek out a life with Dabasendazon, with humility, where you don't exalt yourself above your relatives. You acknowledge, I am all of my relatives. To have that respect for one another. To acknowledge the sanctity and sacredness of our relatives' lives. To do that with that unconditional, compassionate love. And the strength of heart that you will need to make those difficult decisions as we're walking along the path of life. And as you're walking, as you're living that life, make sure your words are in alignment with your actions, so that you're leading a holistic life. If we look at that in ancient terms, you're leading a holy life. And if you do that, every one of your choices, every one of your decisions, be wise. They'll be enlightened. They will be positively beneficial for all of your relatives, past, present, and future. Andomin minopamatsida. Let's all go out and seek the good life. And on that note, I want to end this traditionally by saying, Miigwech Bizendawe, thank you so much for listening. Miigwech for your compassion, Miigwech for your kindness and your hospitality. Pijigo Miigwech Bizendawe. Thank you for listening. You. Thank you. You guys are so kind. You guys are kind. You're great. Thank you so much for the invite. You're great. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for bringing me here to all these amazing men. Thank you. Great. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for bringing me here. Great. Thank you.
Wow. Take another breath. I grew up Baptist, and every summer as a kid, we would go up to our Baptist summer camp in northern Michigan. And then when I was 13, my dad got a job as the director of the camp in northern Michigan. So I lived there. And the great thing about summer camp, right, is that it's just this high, this spiritual high, where you're singing songs, you're in community, you're playing games, you're making friends. And in the Baptist church, there's always like the last night campfire, right, where you sit around the fire and everyone's supposed to get up and share their testimonies of how God moved them, and or come up forward and get saved, which to Baptists meant pray a certain prayer, say certain magic words, so you could get your ticket to go to heaven when you die. But it was a good experience. Theology aside, it was a good experience. It was this deep sense of connection, horizontally and vertically, right? And that would last about 2 weeks, right? 3 weeks maybe. You go home, you're on that high, you're rededicated to living your life differently, and then it sort of fades, and you forget, and life goes back to normal. And that's going to happen to this too. Probably. No, it will. It'll fade. And that's okay. But it doesn't mean it wasn't real, and it doesn't mean that the things that you're taking away from here can't be integrated into your life. So the first bit of advice I have for you is to spend some time integrating. Sit with it, journal about it, meditate on what it might mean for you over the long term, past the 2 or 3 weeks, right? Don't change everything all at once. Don't go home and say, I want a divorce. Don't go home and say, and quit your job. Maybe quit smoking. But give yourself grace on that too. And there's things, deliberate, intentional things to do. that we want to help you do, that Illuman wants to help you do, if we can, if it feels valuable to you to connect into the things that we can offer to help you along what we call your journey of illumination, the journey that you take to keep this going, to keep doing your work over time, because it's not about one-off events. It's not about Awaken. It's not about the rites of passage. Those are commencement. Those are initiation. Those are starting points. But it's an ongoing journey. So, if you would let me, I'm going to tell you about a few opportunities, ways that you can do that if this is useful to you. The rites of passage. We have our men's rites. That's our signature program that Father Rohr handed down to us. We have elder rites for men over 60 and up, I believe. We have youth rites for teenagers. If you are a leader or an organizer of an upcoming rite of passage in 2025, would you stand? So I'm not asking them to stand so that we can thank them. I'm asking them to stand so you can find them later if you are interested. If you want to know about how I can go to a rite of passage this coming year, talk to one of these guys. We have, where are they? Minnesota, Oklahoma, June in Minnesota, September for Oklahoma, MROP, Oklahoma in October, September. Gosh, you got a flyer in your folder. It's in there too. MROP, June, Southern California. Youth Rites of Passage, early October in Indiana, Michigan chapter. Rites for Adolescents, October, Washington, D.C. With Embrades. That's the Spanish language version of the rites. September. Oregon, men's rights, May. Elder rights, New Jersey, when? May. And elder rights, September, Washington State. Saying this in the mic for the folks at home. Any other rights? All right, if you're interested in any of those, you know who to talk to. Chapter leaders, do you have any events coming up in the next 3, 4, 5 months that you'd like to spend 30 seconds on the what, where, and when?
In Ohio, we do a writing retreat every year, and we're going to be doing it again in January. And this year, our poet inspiration is Rumi. It's called The Ocean of God's Love, and it'll be in Southwest Ohio in Dayton, and we'll also be doing it in June. So check our website and join us. It's a wonderful weekend, not as hard as the MROP.
The first week of October 2025, Illuman, New Mexico will be a retreat based on Richard's book, The Tears of Things. We're working out the details, but bring your tears.
Illuman NorCal will be hosting Elders at the Gate, which is a virtual event, so all of y'all can make it. No need to travel. That'll be December 6th through the 8th of this year. And we'll be working on the question of how does our inner work make a difference in the world? And it's really an opportunity to share stories, to hear other stories, and to move more deeply into our work. Thanks.
I know this is a lot. If you have a notebook, start writing things down. If you have your phone, maybe put it into your notes. and also Illuman.org, the event calendar. These things will be on there.
In the fall, 2 weeks after Labor Day, we have Matthew Lyda coming for a, what does he call it? Holy Ruckus. So, and I know a number of you have been to it before, and it's really, really highly recommended. Be a great experience. In January, we also have a one-night retreat. I forget the name of it now. Mike, do you remember? Wrestling with the Shadow of Our Ancestors. So it's a one-night retreat, and one of the men from our chapter is offering to do that for us. So that should be good as well.
Illuman of Illinois will be having a 3-day retreat at the end of January, early February, called the Wild God, and it'll be led by Jim Taylor. We're just kind of formulating what that means. So come and help us. But a lot of archetypal exploration, and there's a flyer out on the table.
So as you can see, lots going on already. Paul?
Yeah, first weekend in May, Illuman of the Ozarks is hosting, it's our 4th annual, I love keep adding numbers, Sons and Fathers Retreats. And we may not all be fathers, but we're all sons. So all men are welcome, and it's be down at the Ozark National Scenic Riverways, part of the national park system, deep in the rugged, wild Ozarks. And we'll be doing some service projects to help the Ozarks poor, and then also canoeing on the Current River along with other stuff.
Southern California and Los Angeles is doing a powerful day retreat December 7th on the Martyrs of El Salvador. And in the beginning of March, Jim Clark is giving a talk on spirituality for those who aren't churchy.
So this weekend you experience the power of counsel, men gathering in circles to be vulnerable and real. You can continue to do that online. You don't have to have a group in the area. Although if you do, it's great to meet in person. It's even better in person, I think. But virtual is powerful too. Go to Illuman.org, find the virtual council section. We have passion circles. Those are online councils around a topic, a theme. We have a divorce recovery support group. We have a 12-step group. We're restarting one for queer men. We have ones on topics, ones for chaplains, caregivers. Go check it out. There might be something interesting there for you. Every 3 or 4 months, we host these online one-night seminars called Watering Holes. We have one coming up in December on dream work. Really fascinating. We have online cohorts. That's groups that meet over a period of time, sometimes for a year, sometimes for 9 weeks or so. We have one called 47 for those of you like me that are going through midlife crisis. We have one called A Father for Gen Alpha for new or expecting fathers. And we have one called the Howling Cohorts, Howling at the Moon. And that's it was originally conceived as a next step after your rite of passage, but actually it's for anyone, because we're not going to presume where you are on your own personal journey and when you're ready for it. Check those out on our website. And if you would like to keep the council experience in person that you experience going, look on our website, see if there's a chapter near you, reach out to the conveners. A lot of them are here. Reach out to them and say, is there a council group in my area that I can go to? And if not, can I start one? Because we're going to train you how to do that. We've created a new council training course. Some of you here are in it. The first beta test ones we're doing this fall, those are all full. With 64 guys that said, yeah, I want to start a new council. And some of them might be near you, so there might be new ones popping up in your area. And if not, sign up in February when we're going to run our first one next year after the holidays, and learn how. And and we'll help you. We will provide the support and names of men you can reach out to, and we're not going to leave you flying solo. We're going to check in with you repeatedly every few months. We're going to have kind of a council of council leaders for ongoing support. I need this. You need this. Men in the world need to gather in circles so that we know we're not alone. So help us do that. Help us create those. Yes, remember Dr. Acosta offered a scholarship for anyone that wants to sign up for his course. It actually starts today, like right now. But I asked him about that, and he said if you sign up, he'll just give you the recording of the first session, so you won't have missed anything. Awaken 2024 is the discount, and you're going to be getting an email from me at 1 o'clock today, and that link will be in there. A few other things will be in there too. One will be a link to our online community site. It's like a social network platform just for Illuman, and there's a group within it just for Awaken guys. So that's your place to stay connected to each other online. It works just like social media. You can make posts, you can comment on posts, you can post links that you find helpful, poems you found meaningful. You can chat, you can, it's a social network except without all the toxicity of all the other ones. It's the Illuman online community. So just follow the link in the email. Mighty Networks is the platform, if you've ever used that before. That email is also going to include the link to our evaluation form. So when you're on the bus heading to the airport and sitting in the airport waiting for your flight, fill that out for us. Tell us how we did. I love the phrase, even better if. This would be, Awaken 2024 was fantastic. Here's what I loved about it. And it would be even better if next year we did this. So tell us both of those. Tell us what you loved. Tell us how we can do even better so that we can, make this good for the men that come next year, including each one of you, right? Yeah. So about that, Awaken 2025, November 6th through 9th, back at Shrinemont, Virginia. One more link in that email that's coming at 1 o'clock will be the save the date. Put it on your digital calendar now. You just click the link and it'll go right on your calendar. So you don't forget. And as soon as we can, we're going to have the registration up, and you'll be able to register, hopefully by the end of this year. The theme, save the date, bring 2 friends, like tell the men in your lives, your son, your nephew, your brother, your next door neighbor, the guys in your church, bring 2 of them. One guy that's a bit like you, and one guy that isn't. Someone that's different. Maybe a different skin color, maybe a different belief system, maybe different politics. Bring someone that you wouldn't normally think to bring. We're playing with the theme for this, and we want your help. We can brainstorm this together, maybe on that online community. The book just met on Thursday to kind of kick this around, and what came up at first was a celebration of manhood. And we thought that phrase is a little fraught. Like, what do we mean by manhood? So we said, well, what we're talking about is men loving men. What do we love about each other? How do we show love to each other? And then we thought, well, so we're talking about community of men. So it's really a celebration of menhood. Not manhood, menhood. And we're like, well, that's not a word. But it is now. And it's our word. We get to define it because it means menhood, all of us. It's not solo. We're not alone. So we're kicking that idea around. Get on the online site. Help us think through what that is, what it should mean for us. And your homework then is, how are you, whatever it means, how are you going to celebrate it this year? Between now and then, how will you celebrate menhood, all of it, the togetherness? All right, so that's what's coming. I hope to see you there. I think we're going to close with a poem by our brother, and then T. Mike.
And then I'll do council circles with everybody.
Yeah. And if you're leaving, and this is your last experience of Awaken, we'll send you off. Otherwise, come back for the closing ritual after your councils at no later than 11:15, I believe. And you'll be taking your ofrendas then, and your drums then. So leave your drums and your ofrendas until then.
Right on. Yeah. You gotta just take a deep breath and like breathe in all the goodness in this space. Just slow down, take a moment of pause and stillness. I want to read this poem called Breath of God. And there's a refrain that says, "We believe in the breath of God." And every time I say that refrain, I want to invite you all to take maybe the deepest breath you've taken today and set the intention of like welcoming in all of this joy and beauty and healing wisdom that we've cultivated in this space. Every time you take that deep breath, just imagine yourself just breathing in all this goodness, but then also breathing it out for everyone else as well. We believe in the breath of God. A rhythm in our chest, a movement from heaven to heart and outward to everyone else. We believe in the breath of God. That hovers over the face of the deep, that moves until every captive is freed, that gives until no one is left in need. We believe in the breath of God. We will use this breath to speak for those who can't breathe, to weep with those who weep, to grieve with those who grieve. We will use this breath to practice what we preach, to become God's hands and feet in the church and in the street. We believe in the breath of God. Creating justice, revealing love, beyond buildings, but the resilience God builds in us. To confess, repent, and repair, not in guilt, blame, or shame, but through courage and compassion, until our humanity is reclaimed. We believe in the breath of God. To help our unbelief, that we might give our every breath until we all can breathe. I want to invite, can I do one closing ritual? I want to do one closing ritual. You can keep standing, This is perfect. And so I want to do an embodied ritual to close us out. This is something I practice in some of the communities I'm a part of. So I want to invite you all to all rise as you're willing and able. And to find somebody you can pray with, at least one other person, maybe in twos or threes if we need to. And we're going to pray. We're going to bless each other's bodies. This is a body prayer. And so I am going to use language of God and Christ, but I'm also very intentional as a poet. I know that all language is a metaphor, right? And it just holds the essence of what we're speaking to. And so when I say God, when I say Christ, I trust that you all know I'm speaking to like this divine, infinite loving source that we're all connected to always. So we're going to pray over the head and we're going to say, may your mind be filled with the mind of Christ. Mind be filled with the mind of Christ. And then over the ears and say, may your ears hear the cries of God's children. Your ears hear the cries of God's children. And over the eyes, without poking anybody's eyes out, over the eyes and say, may your eyes see the face of God in all you meet. May your eyes see the face of God in all you meet. Then over the mouth, say, may your mouth speak hope and truth with love. May your mouth speak hope and truth with love. And then down to the feet. You don't actually have to reach the feet if you can. It's okay. May your feet carry good news wherever you go. May your feet carry good news wherever you go. Then over the hands, and you're going to say, may your hands bring healing to all you touch. May your hands bring healing to all you touch. And then lastly, hand on the shoulder symbolizing the heart. Say, may your heart be filled with the love of God. May your heart be filled with the love of God this day and always. Amen.